Shabbat Shalom. But when I get into my car or any vehicle, I immediately put my seatbelt on. And this habit didn't just start overnight. I remember a time when my parents had to constantly remind me to put my seatbelt on. But eventually, the act of putting my seatbelt on became second nature to me. Think about some of the habits you have, both habits that you would consider to be beneficial, as well as habits that you would like to be rid of. It's tough to pinpoint when and how these became fixed behaviors. We often don't engage in that self-analysis when we undertake tasks. We disregard the automatic responses compelling us to act upon certain triggers. Some experts believe that it could take upwards of 40 days to break a habit or to create a new one. And for some, that seems like a really long time. A long time to commit when you're moving into that space of unknown with only the elusive promise of transformation. However, I think we all know that it takes intentional thought, intentional action to commit beyond those initial 40 days if we want real, transformative, substantial change. In this week's tour, we saw scouts sent to the land of Canaan, each representing one of the 12 tribes to determine if the land is inhabitable. And for 40 days, the people wait back in their camps, emotionally preparing themselves to hear good news that would propel them into the promised land. The scouts return 40 days later, bringing clusters of fruits as proof of the land's fertility. But not all of the scouts are hopeful about entering the land. 10 of the scouts reports, "Yes, we came to the land that you sent us. It flows with milk and honey, and look, these are its fruits." But the people in the land are powerful. The cities are huge. They're way too well protected for us. We look like grasshoppers in comparison. The other two scouts, Joshua and Caleb, they contradict this report, claiming that the land that God has brought us to is exceedingly good. It flows with milk and honey. There is no reason to fear. But it doesn't matter what Joshua and Caleb say, because all the people could hear was the negative reports of the other 10 scouts. Their ability to reach the promised land disappears the moment fear creeps into their hearts and minds. The people begin rebelling, they complain, they want to return to Egypt, the narrow place from which they were just rescued. And they cry out not to receive the potential gift of freedom before them, but for a past filled with pain and suffering. And their children hear this desire to return to violence and hate. And so God interrupts. And God punishes this generation clamoring for narrowness. Says, "I will allow your children to enter. They shall know the land you have rejected. Your children will wander for 40 years, suffering for your faithlessness, but you will fall away in this wilderness." Imagine being on the cusp of potential. The people were there. They were camping on the edge of the promised land, and all that it would take for them to enter is a commitment by everyone to move forward together. How many times has fear or doubt stopped us from pursuing our dreams? How many habits have we wanted to start or end only to quit on ourselves when it was easier to do so rather than pushing past that discomfort? The spies serve their purpose of warning of potential danger, but the people react out of fear. Danger informs us to buckle our seatbelts. Fear prevents us from getting into the vehicle. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. And we've spent far too long neglecting the pursuit of justice, telling ourselves that our actions won't make a difference. Excuses like, my parents never had these conversations with me, or I was never taught this history in school, these justifications hold us back. Fear forms harmful habits for our society, which continue to allow systems of oppression to go unchecked. It's been less than 40 days since George Floyd was murdered. 40 days after George Floyd's last breath will be our country's Independence Day, a day meant to celebrate liberty and justice for all. We, all of us, are the generation born in the wilderness, and our country has wandered for 400 years through the desert of injustice. We have a choice, though, to begin intentionally creating habits that will benefit all. We can protest, we can organize, advocate, listen, learn, amplify, and we can vote. History has its eyes on us. Let us commit and then recommit to making real, transformative, sustainable change. The work required is not going to be easy, but a just world built on love will be worthwhile.